You know what's funny? I've been like ready for this. I've been prepared for this, but like it's still kind of surreal to be having this conversation. I ain't gonna hold you, dog.
Man, oh man, nah, I ain't nobody.
You actor, voice actor, producer, painter, journalist,
Yeah,
singer, like dancer,
man.
teacher, spoken word, like
It's too
30,
much.
like
It's a
we're
lot.
talking about 30 years, like in this,
Yeah,
it's like
it's
some
true.
surreal shit. I'm
It's
not gonna
true.
hold
It's true. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Like I said, I loved everything that we did previously on the podcast. So it's just like I told y'all, like, whenever y'all want, just let me know. We'll do another show individually, together, don't matter, whatever. I rock with y'all.
Oh, and I appreciate that for real. I really do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so everybody that's going to eventually be tuning in, welcome to the Black Creators Matter podcast. And today's guest, the infamous, talented Mr. Gary O'Gray. You know,
What up? What up?
but yeah, man, 30
What an
years.
intro. What an intro.
You deserve it. You deserve it. 30 years in the game. You started out doing print modeling, then you went to New York, and then from there your beginning into acting was the Cosby Show.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
That's iconic.
It definitely was one of those things that I didn't realize how iconic it was when I was doing it. Obviously I was only 3 years old at the time, so for me it was just about having fun. I was explained to it was explained to me in length, exhausting length rather, that this was a job as well as having fun. So with that, I kind of just got my first little taste of, being on set, and it just didn't stop from then. I had already kind of understood the ins and outs of show business just through modeling, in the short time that I did that before acting. So, it was really cool just for me to sort of graduate to, from runway to set. So yeah, and
That's
then,
one
as they
heck of a
say, the rest is
graduation.
history.
Like 3 years old, Cosby Show, Fresh Prince, Living Single, one of my
Yeah,
favorite shows ever. Family Matters. Like you were
same.
just everywhere. And like I don't think people, especially me myself, like until like recent more years, just realize how ingrained you were in like my upbringing watching TV. You
Yeah,
know,
no, no. I mean, I didn't even realize it either. I think maybe 2 years ago, I posted a tweet, and I realized that I did all of those, well, the major Black sitcoms really before I turned seven. And so I was just like, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I might be one of the only Black male actors to be on all of them. The majors. You got like I said, like you said, the Living Singles, Family Matters, Fresh Prince, and Cosby. And that's just, to me, just an achievement in itself. If I stopped then, if I stopped it there, I'd be like, man, that's a career right there. So what people strive for is to get on those shows or to be seen on shows that are that iconic. So the fact that I did all of those in the, what do they call it? The sunrise or of my career. I heard about the twilight, but I guess I guess sunrise is the other end of that. But yeah, it just, it's really just kind of cool to think about. I was really a part of a lot of people's sort of upbringing, because those were the shows you watched when you came home from school, or if your parents were actually watching a show as a family, it's probably one of those. So I feel really grateful to be in everybody's households at such a young age.
but like it's one thing to watch, but it's another thing because you were an actual person doing it. So what was that kind of balance like? Like, being on TV, but also like you're still a kid. So, you still have to go through the
Mhm.
ins and outs, the challenges of being a kid and essentially growing up in front of
Right.
everybody's eyes.
It was really kind of surreal for me once I realized sort of the importance of everything. Once you really kind of during Cosby, the first couple of weeks, it's just rehearsals and stuff, and you're acting, so you're just like whatever. And then, you get into being on the show for a couple of months, and then it was like, okay, I can't go to the toy store without, being mobbed. So it kind of got to the point where I was realizing a couple things even at a young age, and just realizing the importance of who I was on set with, even from Bill to even the cast of Fresh Prince. Like you look at all of those people and how they've grown, and it was just like, whoa, like that's insane. Like I was really on set with Will, before he was Will Smith then, but it's like he even got to a bigger Will Smith, and it's like like I said, just thankful is just really just the thing. I always tell people I feel like I've lived 10 lives, because of looking back and realizing how all of those were such a sort of, so surreal and solid part of my life where I felt like, man, this is what I'm doing, right now. And it's just like they exist like little pockets of just history for me because it's just like, man, I really did that, So, but yeah, no, it was really cool just to and then obviously growing up into Disney and Nickelodeon and stuff, that it was even, more of a change because you go from the black sitcoms that are in everybody's household to then, Nick and Disney being even more worldwide than those projects were. And, you talk to anybody and they've, seen Fairly Odd Parents or at least know of it, and so on and so forth. So just really cool. I'm just really thankful for all the stuff that I've done.
Oh, you've done a lot. We definitely going to talk about that Disney Nick thing because I think that's kind of interesting because I'm like, y'all don't got beef, but we're going to talk about that.
Right, right,
Uh,
right.
but like, I never even thought about that. Like being a child and you making money and like, when I'm young, you try to go to Toys R Us. Like you can't even go to that. I
Yeah,
never would
yeah.
have thought about that.
Yeah, no, there was definitely times of that I remember vividly from being in New York shooting Cosby because that's where we shot it, and just going downtown and trying to get something because we lived on Roosevelt Island, so we'd always have to take the tram into town. So it was always a thing, and it was cool because on Roosevelt Island there wasn't really many people or many sort of housing developments at the time. I think there was like two apartment buildings and like a couple of residents, and so it was kind of like its own little world back then. So I didn't really, I could walk around Roosevelt Island easily, but soon as I got into town, cross it over in Queens and stuff like that, you go to Brooklyn, and it's like it's insane. So yeah, it was very different. But my sort of parents and my team always tried to make sure that I had as normal of a upbringing as possible, regardless of all the stuff like that. It was always like we want to make sure that you feel like a kid. So eventually I got those toys and was able to shop and everything, so I can't complain.
Got you. No, like, and you mentioned like your upbringing and your parents. Like, I remember last time we had talked, you like how you kind of like the black sheep of the family because a lot of your family was
Definitely.
went to like law enforcement and things like that, and
Hmm.
you wanted to do this. So I think it's kind of a good notable thing to recognize. You have parents that saw this in you and wanted to
Hmm.
kind of support you in this
Hmm.
creative endeavor. Because many times, especially in our community, it's like, oh, that's not going to be a real job. You got to get a real job, and you have to do
Yeah,
this, you have to do that. So
especially at that time. I think now it's more viable. You get more black parents, willing to sort of see what social media and stuff like that has to offer, gaming, all those kinds of taboo things that used to not be okay to do in the black community. But I feel like now, I don't know, I feel like it's different than how it was before. Because like you said, before it was like, yeah, we don't want you to be an actor. Go get a real job, go work at the post office. So that's kind of, it was definitely a challenge at first. But I think that my parents just didn't have a choice. I didn't give them a choice. I didn't give them a chance to say no. It was started very early. I was very adamant. I was very advanced uh, for my age intellectually. So I was telling my parents, like, no, I know you think that I don't want to do this, but I do. So, very much different than the normal child, like being like, I want to be famous or, just acting like they want to just be a star. I was literally telling my parents the steps, like, no, we need to do this because I want to do this because I want to be here and I want to do these things. So yeah, they just didn't have a choice, unfortunately.
no, that's a good thing because even because one of the questions I was going to ask you is, did you ever like see as a child like your career going in the path that is there, and you now kind of saying like, yeah, you kind of you saw it because you this is what you wanted to do. You knew you wanted to do that. You knew you wanted to, you didn't want, so like I think
Yeah.
that's very intuitive to have at such a young age.
Yeah, I definitely knew very early. I was put in the charm school pretty early. I was also just the fact that I was advanced in school really helped a lot because it allowed my parents to kind of treat me different. You know, it wasn't like we're speaking to this kindergartner. It was like, well, this 3-year-old literally couldn't go to kindergarten because he was too advanced and he started first grade at 3. So what are we to tell him, that he doesn't exactly know what he's talking about? Clearly, he knows some stuff, So I think that it was more so that my parents were just like, he's already showing those signs of being something different than even we are, as a family. So we have to sort of take that into account. So yeah, I was really lucky. I was really lucky because, like you said, it doesn't always turn out that way for sure.
I know you definitely things aligned how they needed to be, from you
Yeah.
being on all the
Well, I
shit.
think it was destined. My grandmother, supposedly there's a story with my mom. She says that when she told my grandmother, who I never got to meet, she said when she got home to tell her that she was pregnant, my grandmother put her hand on my belly and she was like, "Oh, this one's gonna be a star." That supposedly, literally by word, that what she said. And so I was, once I got told that when I was older, I was just like, well, I guess so. Thanks, grandma. So it's just those kind of things that you feel like it's just meant for you to do, things that come very easily to you, things that you're passionate about. And that's always been the case. I've always been passionate about talking to people and connecting with people. And I think that acting, a lot of people don't really see this profession as a way to connect to people, but it really very much is. It's that other side of connecting where you have, the blue collar things that can very much bring you close to people, service workers, policemen, whatever the case may be. Like I said, I come from a long line of police officers and stuff like that. So it was like when they saw that it was different, they were like, you're not like us. But it's the same thing, you still reach people in the same way and can change lives in the same way and support people in the same way by your characters, by your acting, and by being also a performer that people can look up to. A lot of people take that for granted too. Yes, you can do characters that touch people, but if you're a hole, then it's not gonna matter. Like nobody's gonna like it. So I just try to pride myself on being a good person and playing good characters. That's I think that once you kind of really sort of not want all the other stuff that comes with my profession, then it becomes easy to be a good person. But when you get caught up in chasing all the other stuff that comes along with it, then that's when people are like, well, I don't know, I don't really like this guy. So I just pride myself. Nobody ever has no bad reports about me on set and all that. So that's how I want to keep it.
No, it's funny you say that because, like, if nothing else, one thing about a black grandmother, they gonna tell you like it is.
Yeah.
They gonna have that intuition. Like it, they say something, it's a staple. Like
It's gonna come to
it
fruition,
is
most
what it is.
likely. Yeah, no, seriously. And that's when I told her, when she told me that, I didn't believe her. But the funny thing is, I guess my aunt was also in the room and she even corroborated the story. She was like, nope, she said it. I brought her back. I brought her back home and I heard her say it. So it's just, it's one of those things that I sort of take to heart. And it's like if that was said before I was even brought into the world, then who am I to kind of deny that? I just do my job. That's just my job at that point. That's my destination. So
No, you do it well. Like, and even you said like doing roles or choosing certain characters, like people can look up, to you or to the character that you're choosing to play. I think one of those characters, at least that I've seen, especially like get like I don't want to say like a resurgence because we are very well full aware of who AJ is and was.
mm,
But it's like, now seeing like the whole representation talks and things like that, like it's like,
yeah.
nah, smart as hell, little black boy, black family out here building robots and everything. Like, and I think that's
Yeah.
like
wealthy black family. They weren't struggling, how we always depicted.
Especially not in that house.
Yeah, and it's crazy because the creator Butch Hartman gets a lot of flack for the creation of his works and stuff like that and how he is. But I'll always say hats off to him for that because he didn't have to do that. Black kids are not usually the forefront in animation, just period. I think the last maybe 5 years or so, we've seen probably more black animation than we had all the years previous, prior. And so I'm very thankful that he was, 16 years ago, he had the wherewithal to say he doesn't have to be normal how the media perceives normal black children to be. He can be Jimmy Neutron, and it'd be fine. So I loved playing that character, and it was such a representation of me, like not as a black boy, but just even me personally. And I think that's kind of what made it even more something that I cherished was because it was like, wow, it's speaking about me. I always felt like I was sort of that black sheep, like I always said, even in my family. So then to have the character come out and sort of really sort of take who I was and blast it to other people. It was great. It was a great role to play.
Do you think, is there like a AJ show in the works or something? Is that something that you would, be willing to see? Because I'm
You
thinking
know,
if they can make a live action version of the show, they might as well give AJ a show. I'm just saying.
right, right. What's funny is they had I think Nickelodeon or Nick Rewind had a question posted on Twitter maybe 2 years ago now, and they had said, who out of all of the shows that we have as Nickelodeon, what side character do you think deserves their own show? And people were saying, very valid ones. I thought I saw a couple of Azulas from Avatar: Last Airbender, who is played by Gray Delisle, who's a great friend of mine. And I think that, stuff like that was really cool. And I was just playing around honestly. And I posted a picture of AJ and his family, and I was just like, I mean, like, this would work. And that tweet went viral. And what's weird is I've gotten so many responses and stuff from Nickelodeon, Nick Rewind, on Twitter, on social media, period. They even recognized me in 2020 for Black History Month. So very thankful for that. But that tweet, I got no recognition from. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Nick Rewind unfollowed me after that. And which is crazy. And and like I said, I'm not talking mess. I'm just reporting what I've observed. And so I don't know whether it was that specifically or whether it was, just seeing how popular that tweet got and then looking back on my page and maybe seeing how I represented it. Who knows? I can only be me. That's all I say. But I think the people showed at that point that that kind of show is very viable. Like that people would see or watch an AJ show with his parents, sort of a black Jimmy Neutron. Some people actually were even throwing in show ideas under the tweet, if I recall, and a lot of them were phenomenal. I was like, I could definitely see that. And as a writer and producer, I'm like, oh, I'm so mad. I can't do anything with this. It's not my character. But it's something that I would very much do. If I could go back to AJ, that honestly would be one of like a dream job for me because doing that show was so easy to do. As a performer, it was just easy to get up and go to work that had an environment like that. It wasn't easy to do as far as technicality per se, especially in the later years because I started that show when I was 14, and I ended it when I was 28. So that like the voice thing at after like 22, I was like, oh gosh, help. But so it wasn't easy by technical standard, but when you have that kind of cast, and you have that environment showing up to the Nick Studios every day, and it's like it's a beautiful, recording space. They've got drinks and food, and you can play basketball when you're not recording. And, they have a basketball court like literally next door to the recording studio. It's crazy. So all that kind of thing as a teen, I'm like I said, I started when I was 14. So you say as a 16-year-old, I'm going to work and it's Nick Studios and I'm going there every week. It's just like it's a dream job. So if that were to come back, especially at this point in my life where I'm tired, like I said, I would love that, you know. But I think that it's not viable for Nick. I think that that's something that they're moving one away from that type of show, I think, in their programming. And two, I think that it's just something that they're very scared of. You know, I think that a lot of major distributors and producers are scared of what it could mean for audiences to have black led shows and they not be because of a black thing. It's just a show, you know what I mean? And I think that that's something that's a struggle for a lot of production houses and distributors, is that they don't know how to place that. It's like, do we say it's a Fairly Odd Parents revival? Do we say it's a reboot or a spin-off? You know, and it's like, it's just a show. It's just a show using an existing character. But it'd be a lot of politics, I'm sure. And that's not on Nick. That's just on how media perceives everything right now. You know, that's just sort of the way of the world. So, but like I said, I would love to do it if I got the chance. So, if anybody's out there and has enough money to buy the rights of Fairly Odd Parents or AJ, the character from Butch Hartman, let me know.
Also, you never know. Things may
You
happen.
never know. We
Come
can make it
around.
work. There might be a black billionaire listening to this right now, and they like, I want to see it. So hey, I'm ready to go when y'all are.
They out there, okay?
Oh,
They get
definitely,
dragged on Twitter all the time, but they still out there.
definitely, definitely.
But like you playing AJ, like also playing like Squid, also like being Nelson. Like we said, even on Robot Jones, like you was Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, Disney
Hmm.
Channel.
Yeah,
Like
like
from
the
the
big three.
outside, like I said, outside looking in, like there was never like no beef. Like, yo, you can't be over here and be over there. Like, how did
Oh no. No, you know, it's crazy because with Disney, I mostly did on camera, obviously with Even Stevens. I did do a Disney cartoon. I believe Fillmore was on Disney, and I did do a couple episodes of Fillmore. But I think that at the time, you know, I think that it was really because there was no black boys really doing that. You know, I came up in voiceover when I was the only kid, not only the only black kid or the black person, I was really the only person like under 20, 25 doing, you know, anything that I had stepped on set, with the exception of Rocket Power, who was the only show that I had that used kids for kids. You know, there were actual, we were all, whoever was a child in the show was a child in real life, you know. So that was, with the exception of that, everything else, I was the kid, you know, the baby, you know, by far. So I don't know. I think that that's the difference, you know, in that. But wait, what were we? I'm sorry, I got sidetracked as far as what the original question was. You was talking about what were you saying?
no, you good. I was like, how would
Okay.
you like, Nick versus Disney
Oh,
versus
the beef.
Cartoon
That's
Network?
right. The beef. Yeah. It,
You
it
were
just was,
still
I
touching
wasn't,
on it.
yeah.
It's
I
good.
answered, okay. Yeah. I wasn't really, you know, I guess sort of tug of war because it was like, we got to get the black kid that be doing the voices. You know, it's like, it was me. I think it was like, you know, I think Maestro had done a couple of things at that time, but it was really slim pickings, to be honest. And the only other kid my age, I think, was Ulysses, who played Twister on Rocket Power. You know, there wasn't an influx of child black child actors who were also dipping into voiceover, which is what we have now. You have like the Sky Jacksons and, you know, Marseille, Martins and stuff. You know, they all are dipping their toes into big budgeted VO stuff because of their following and their pull on camera things. And I just didn't have that luxury, you know, unfortunately. And I'm grateful now that it can be that way because, you know, people have had it that way for the longest. We've always been talking about how on-camera actors sometimes take the roles of, you know, VO actors who have been doing voiceover for a long time, and then an on-camera person comes in with a big name and takes your job. I always said I would rather that happen if, you know, it's people who didn't have that chance in the first place, aka, Black boys and girls who didn't have those chances on either space. So if it's happening, if my role, if me as a voice, what I consider to me to be a voiceover artist gets their role taken by somebody who's more on camera, I'm fine, with it being in the community, of course. So that is kind of my stance on it. So no beef, no beef. I was just sort of the only one at that point. So I think it was more beef, honestly, with the on-camera sitcoms that I did, to be honest. I think I remember, yeah, I definitely remember people like laughing on set, that the fact I think the last one that I did was probably Living Single. And so by that point, I had already done Cosby, had already done Fresh Prince, and had already done um what was the other one? Jeez, what am I'm
Family
missing?
Matters.
Family Matters, right. So at that point, I think while I was on Living Single, I think there was a couple of jokes said by a couple of the cast members, like, "Oh, you just making the rounds." It's just like you didn't see, especially because at that time, a lot of the shows were shot in around the same studios. Black studios or black shows didn't have black studios to go shoot at. So we were renting out space and lots that we weren't even distributed by sometimes. It was just like find the space. So we were on the Warner Brothers lot, Paramount, whatever, Sony, it's just wherever you could be. So that was kind of the thing. But yeah, no beef. No beef with the Disney folk.
So
They
what is
can't, they
that?
don't they don't have it in them anyway. It's all song and dance over there. So now
So
if
what?
I was like on BET versus like, I don't know, what's another black like Revolt? Like it'd probably be some problems.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Right, so
Oh, but what is that? What was that transition like for you to go from like on camera to voiceover work and like kind of staying relatively in that field?
at first I was sort of I didn't really, I don't know. I didn't really think about it. It was just kind of, I was just doing it, and it was just like, I knew I wanted to be in voiceover. I told my parents, like, I want to do voiceover. That's how I got my current agent. And I was like, I need to find somebody who can get me into cartoons. I want to do cartoons. So once I got into it, I was just happy. And then the first one I got was Rocket Power, and it was, a national hit. Like, of course, I was happy. So I think that, right. I think that I made the transition very easily. And I don't think until maybe I got older, 20 in my early 20s and late 20s when I really started saying like what is it that I want to do with my career? What's most fulfilling to me? And I think at that time I was falling out of love with on-camera things. I was getting a lot of auditions for just the same old stuff, Thug One, Thug Two, and all that kind of thing. And that actually influenced my choice to join the Noah's Ark cast when Patrick had hit me up about it. And I think that was really sort of that departure, really for me saying, okay, if I'm going to do on-camera stuff, it's going to be what I want to do. And then voiceover was sort of my thing. Like that was the thing I was hungry for. Before in my early part of the career was like whatever audition, I'm going on it, on camera wise. I even booked I don't know if I told you guys this last time, but I had booked Menace to Society, I believe, and it was the kid who is on the big wheel waving the gun, who talks a little bit in the beginning, and then I think at the end too. And my mom, when she saw the script, she was just like, him waving a gun at that age, I don't know, so don't know if we want to do that. So it was just, it was a choice. It was like, yo, like we don't want him seen in that way. And so all of the on-camera stuff that I did, was very much image based. It was very much to make sure that I was sort of guiding myself into, the way that I wanted it to be. Um, so when I did Noah's Ark, it was like a departure from that. It was a departure from everything. And it was just like, I want to act. I want to do something that people probably don't want me to do that I'm going to do anyway, and that's that, So, yeah, that was just kind of the thing for me was just that transition as far as doing other on camera things while I was doing voiceover. The voiceover didn't necessarily make it different, but my choices in on camera did, affect it, trickle down for sure.
Got you. And speaking of Noah's Ark, like going into that, like I know you just kind of touched on it to a degree, but
Mhm.
for you to, choose to play the role or be in the series at all, especially during that time. Like, yeah, we can say like, yeah, nowadays it's easier, LGBTQ, da 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 da. All right, that's one thing. But during that specific time frame, on top of it, especially in the Black community,
It
it
wasn't. No,
was rough.
I mean, I was 18, so you're talking about, 14, 15 years ago, plus. And so I think that at the time it really wasn't. It was very much a taboo thing still. I think that the biggest thing had been the show Noah's Ark, that showed the Black community and LGBTQ community together. And I think Patrick had released the Skinny as well, which was his independent film that took off and did really well in the space. So those were really the biggest representations, and I think Noah's Ark was on Logo, which was a subsidiary of MTV, but the visibility wasn't huge. So when the Noah's Ark film came out and kind of increased that, I think that that's really when things sort of started to take a little precedent, and you started seeing more roles, and you started seeing things, and people aren't going to credit that film because it's still a small film by relative nature. But I think that film honestly just broke open so many doors for just LGBTQ media. Um, Especially in the Black community, because no one really was doing the P Valleys. And the funny thing is, Patrick is also involved in PV. He's the writer in P Valley. So it's like when you think about it, it's especially Patrick has to really be recognized for his work and just putting Black gay, spaces into the forefront. And it's just really one of those things that I champion because he was really sort of a trailblazer in the aspect. And when I did the film, I wanted to take part in that. I said to myself, I want to do something that's daring. I want somebody to say he didn't have to do this, or this was something that probably was out of his comfort zone, yet he did it anyway. And then even more important to me than that was the community's reaction from that, to say, all of that considered, did he do a good job? And I wanted it to be, a positive reaction. So I was able to achieve all of that with Patrick's help. And yeah, it's now looked at as, one of those staples in both communities. So I love that.
No, then that's definitely a very powerful and beautiful thing. Like during that, like
Mhm.
it was still rough. Like no
Yeah.
matter what you did, So to have that, and for you to be so young and to be okay with who you are personally, and be like, yeah, I can play this role. It's not going to affect me and my manhood, nothing like that.
Yeah.
I think that also is a testament to type of person that you are, and we've
Yeah.
seen, throughout the years.
And it wasn't all roses. I'm not going to take credit and say that I didn't have the thoughts or very inappropriate just ideas heading into it. Even after booking it, I was having those second thoughts, and then we had a contract renegotiation because at first I was supposed to be naked, and then I was like, I don't know if I want to be naked at 18 yet, and all that. I still haven't done it, so so I think that all of those kinds of things really did sort of have my mind working in overtime, and then once I got to set, it was really Patrick and the cast that really sort of allowed me to feel comfortable and was like, look, we know how young Black males think about us, and this is what it is, and then also because Noah's Ark was a pre-existing project and had 2 years worth of show already, and there were straight men, on that show portraying gay men, and so they were also able to say, "Hey, look, we are straight as well. This is our feelings. This is how we respect the community. This is how we can coexist." And having those two sides with me at all times were just majorly influential when it came down to having my mindset warp and change to something that is obviously more tolerant and more respectful. And I think that really is what it takes. A lot of people are so just afraid of touching anything that has to. And it's so funny when I booked the role, Patrick was telling me all the people that he had basically begged and pleaded, colleagues of mine, that were he was like, please do this, and they would not do it. And and it's just like when I looked at the script, was I like, ooh, kind of scared? Oh gosh, and mind you, most of it was because this was my first real kiss period on screen. It wasn't that it was, a guy. It was because I'm finally being intimate on screen. I'm only 18. I'm barely intimate in my own life, like, and here you want me to talk about having sex with this guy, and I don't know nothing about that. So so for me, it was just a jarring experience in that aspect, just growing up, period. It wasn't really the community, it was just growing up into a role that was very much an adult role and talked about adult things. So I think that was mainly my fear. And then on top of that, having it be a community that I wanted to respect and just didn't know how to. I knew the ways and the ideas and the stuff that I had was wrong, but it was going into it and saying, okay, how do I change that? How do I become okay with working, in this environment? And then past that, not change back to what I was. That was important to me, was not treating this like a job that I punched the clock and was like, okay, cool, I'm done. Now I can go back to, what I was doing. I wanted to not do this unless it was going to change my idea, and thoughts around the community. So when I took the role, the first thing we did was have a meeting with Patrick. And, that was really, the start of me sort of having my mindset changed. So, yeah.
And I will say, like, you did just me watching, like, you did a good job. Like, now I miss Noah's Ark because I was, a little bit young, and I
Right.
couldn't,
Yeah, of course.
we ain't
Nah,
had no
I
money
had to
like
go
that, so
back
I
and
ain't had
watch
no
it.
extra
So
channels. I could sneak
right.
downstairs and watch Logo. So I missed that phase. But
Right,
I
right,
seen
right.
it on Vimeo,
Yeah.
but it's funny when I finally did get to a certain age and I watched it, I was like, is that no sense?
Yep, yep. That's what everybody says. Is that Nelson showing his behind? Goodness gracious. Yeah. So and I will always get called certain things. I feel it's just gonna stick. From Nelson to Tyson for Bring It On. Like it's always just gonna be remembered in some way. So I can't help it. But that just is the mark of a good. That means I just did a good job. I did something memorable. They're not talking about it because of how bad it was. Most of the
That's
time. So
very
even
true.
people who talk about Bring It On and say, "Oh my gosh, it's cringe." It's cringe. People also don't understand that that whole scene's supposed to be cringe. I don't understand why people on Twitter don't get that. But we're gonna put that to the side, and we're not even gonna talk about that. But people say it's cringe. I'm like, even though it's cringe, it's still funny. It's still good. That it's cringe, it makes you laugh. It's that kind of cringe. It's not, oh my God, like I can't watch this. Like people will say that, but you're watching it. Like you're literally watching it, cracking up at this whole dance sequence. So I don't even want to hear it talk about people like, oh my God, it's so bad. Y'all still watch You Got Served, Stomp the Yard, all of them just as bad. The funny thing is that Stomp the Yard and You Got Served got a whole bunch more men in it that y'all like. That's it. That's all. That's it. If I was in Stomp the Yard, everybody wouldn't have nothing to say. If all the Stomp the Yard people was in Bring It On, y'all would not say a damn thing. I know it. So that's all. That's what I got to say about that. Okay, because I'm tired. I'm tired of it. Tired of it. Now, y'all just want some more eye candy. I was the only eye candy and Bring It On, and y'all mad. And then most people don't even like me. They like Jesse. So I understand. You don't even want to see any of that. I get it. But don't try to tell me it wasn't as corny. Like the other stuff wasn't as corny. Cause come on, man, You Got Served was corny. Now, is it still the best dancing in a dance movie? I still say yes. It's still very up there. But the script was way worse than Bring It On in my opinion. Just like, you can't tell me that it wasn't. Okay, the kids was dancing because they were selling drugs. What? Come on, man. Bring It On at least made sense. She was coming, to switch schools. She had to learn how to be cool. That makes sense. Okay, maybe the script wasn't great, but at least the plot made sense. You talking about some other stuff that don't even make no sense. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying on that.
What I will say in defense of
Hmm.
Bring It On All or Nothing, I only watched the two. It's the original one and then y'all version.
Yep,
But
yep.
just like me, Honest, those are the only two that matter.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
only two that matter. That's it.
And it's like 18 of them. Like,
That kept going.
if I'm the percentages is looking good for me. That's all I'm saying. Because ain't nobody posted clips for Bringing On 9. Okay, that's all I gotta say. And it's no disrespect to the crew, the people that made the movie. That's all I'm saying. Y'all got all this mess to talk about my movie, saying it's bad, it's corny. Why you not posting the clips from the other stuff? Then that's all I'm saying. You mean tell me those are all Oscar winning movies? Then I'll shut up.
Because one time one of them other movies was on TV, and I'm like, this alone, let me go see it. And I was
Don't
like,
do it. Don't do it.
it's highly
And I respect them. I respect them because Bring It On is like the lesser version of Fast and Furious. They just knew their audience and was like, let's just keep going. They gonna keep watching them, and you can't fault them for that. And they just get progressively worse and worse, probably. And it's like, hey, you can't fault them. They know what they're doing. I say get your money how you want to, man. That's that's you can't knock nobody for getting their money how they want to. So, that's why I don't talk mess about that. I say the Fast Furious is horrible, but I still go see them all the time. I can't talk mess. I'm still giving them money, you know? You still giving us money, still giving us shine by posting the clips on Twitter. That's all I'm saying. Every time I post a clip, somebody will be like, what movie is this? Every time you see that clip, look at the comments. It's like
it
10
be
people
making
right
me
under there.
feel old
Wait,
too. And like
wait, what movie is this?
I'm only 28. And I be seeing this like, what you mean what movie this is?
Right, exactly. What you don't know what this is? But I get it because a lot of people don't even understand that My Bring It On is not the second one. A lot of people think it's the sequel, and I'm like, it's not. There's a
Again,
whole
one of the
ass
only two that
movie
matter.
in between that, right? It was a whole nother one. I was like,
I can't tell you what the second one is.
it's
I
Bring It
can't
On
tell you.
Again. That's what it's called. It's Bring It On Again, and it's
It's bringing on all or nothing.
you might be right. You might be right. We just gonna go ahead and call it that. But yeah, I had a lot of fun on that.
Listen, that clip go viral. I ain't gonna hold you like damn near like once every 2 months.
It's at least once every 2 months. I usually say it's once every month, but it's at least once every 2 months. And I'm just like, y'all ain't how and I could understand if as it's going viral, it gets like less and less views, likes, all that kind of thing. But it's more. I'm like, what to all the people that found out about it last month? Like, how are the numbers not dropping? Like, I don't get it. I know we make new people every month, but come on, man. Like, it's
And I
gotta
click the
stop.
like button every time. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Hey, so do I. I repost it every time. Hey, you gonna post it? I'm gonna post it too. That's my job. My job as actor is make sure I get seen. So I'm gonna post it too. You gonna talk bad about it? I'm gonna learn how to flip it and make it some good news. Trust me. Every time, and they try me every time. They're like, oh my god, and they'll sometimes even at me. They'll be like, I don't see how you willingly did this role. I don't see how you. And I'm like,
Not you got
you
the
wouldn't,
hotels after you.
huh?
Not you got the hotels after you.
Man, you don't even know. I get so many people on Twitter going after me. All walks of life. Hotep, no tep. It don't matter.
But like, okay, it's like throughout this illustrious career, I find out on social media that you were in the music group and you did some journalism. So
Right.
how do those two things come into play with the acting career? Because you was busy, you was
Yeah,
booked. I
I
seen you.
was. I was. The music thing happened first. I've always been a writer, in my heart, as well as acting. They both coincide very, very much, I think, in equal parts. I'm a storyteller by nature, and so I think that with journalism, it piqued my interest pretty early on, but it didn't really catch until high school. And I think that around I was 14 and I started writing for a couple of papers, just little columns here and there, whatever I could get my hands on. My mom helped me out a lot with that, but that got the attention of the LA Times. And at the time, they had a youth paper that they would put inside of the LA Times, and they would. obviously get students for the columns and stuff for that. So started writing for the LA, LA Times and LA Youth, their youth paper. And I did that for 2 years. And that really was sort of the thing that was like, I could be a journalist, and I was like, all right, I want to take this seriously. So when it came down time to go to college, that's what I majored. I majored in journalism. And although I didn't finish during the time I was writing for LA Youth, I was also writing for Pierce College Roundup. I did a lot of guest columns and other spaces. So it was something that always piqued my interest because my mom wanted me to be a broadcast journalist because she was like, well, I mean, you're an actor and you show your face already. So, but I always heard from like the journalism spaces that how broadcast journalists are looked at as talking heads. And, and so for me, I was like, if I'm going to be in that space, I still have to know what the actual ins and outs of journalism, are. I want to be the talking head that can back everything up if somebody goes at me. So that's why I went to school for it. And yeah, I think it was one of those things that I was sort of in that transitional period, in my career. So in my head I was like, if something happens, if it doesn't work out, I can always fall back on journalism and really start a career in that. um and music happened as well early because around that time it was one of those things that I was doing as a hobby, and it was just like I'm writing and I'm writing stories, and then it was like, oh, we can write some songs too, and I was into poetry a lot, so I started doing a lot of spoken word while I was in school. And mind you, I was in college pretty early. So this is all happening at the same time. So when I was saying I was majoring in journalism, I was 16 in college. And so I was doing that around the same time I was doing the music group. So basically, a friend of mine who is the son of Denise Williams, who sang Silly, Let's Hear It for the Boy off of the Footloose soundtrack. Very, very popular singer in her time. She has a son that's my age, and we were best friends, still are. And so at the time, he was doing music solo. And he was sounding great, and I kept saying like, "I'll write some songs for you," and blah blah blah. And then I think one day I wrote like a verse, like a rap verse for one of his R&B songs, and he was just like, "You're really good." And I was just like, "Nah." I was like, and especially because at the time I was more into poetry and journalism, so nothing about those things was like rap, especially because at the time spoken word wasn't kind of what it is now. You're talking 20 years ago, even though we had Def Poetry Jam, it wasn't popular, it wasn't a thing like it is now. So I was kind of shying away from it. But finally, it was like, you should do this, and he was like, no, we're going to go to the studio. We're going to get some studio time and we're going to see what this sounds like. And we added some members and recorded a whole album. There's a whole album that exists with me on it, mixed, mastered, everything. And it sounds great, even still to this day to me. But it will probably never see the light of day because I can imagine, Twitter seeing that sort of music from me. I repost some stuff that I did later in my career on Twitter or Instagram sometimes, but that early stuff with the group, yeah, that stays in the vault. But I always said that I think we were a more focused B5. If you want to, note the sound, B5, B2K, very similar. Although we were before those two groups, we were making music before those two groups. But a lot of our songs still, as a matter of fact, the guy who Forrest West, who's the son of Denise Williams, he is still a artist, and he actually just released a song that we wrote as the group when we were 14, and it still works. It's just a different beat, obviously, because it has to be a different sound. But to know that we were that ahead of our time, to write a song 20 years ago and it still works today. He changed like a couple of minor things, like obviously like name brand things that are mentioned, stuff that's not as hot anymore, but yeah, it's crazy that, you know, we were there. So again, that goes back to what I said earlier as far as living 10 lives. You know, we performed. We were signed to a development deal, I believe at Blackground Records, which was Missy and Tim's label back in the day, which I think is now disbanded. But you know, it was just one of those things that it was just like, wow, I've done that. You know, like I said before, it's just you look back and it's just like, wow, I've really kind of done just a couple of, you know, very different things. But journalism is one of those things I always wish I could go back to. You know, obviously not music because music's so tough. But I do have a spoken word album in the works just because I've just been writing so much, and you know that's the thing that I do to sort of take my mind off things. So that has been compiled for like the last like 5 years. And so I'm just kind of going through the motions of one, choosing to say if I really want to actually release it, and two, you know, picking and choosing, you know, what does this sound like? Is there a story to this? You know, laying the tracks all into, you know, to place, and seeing what it sounds like is sort of really important to me. So that's what I've been doing, you know, but it's sitting on ice. It's almost there.
I feel like, you can put it out in the universe, you work on songs that's still
Yeah.
happening, you almost want the background. And if you did, your music still wouldn't have been out because we seen what background been doing,
All
you know.
right.
But you
Yep.
you might as well do it. I mean, you got brand, you got recognition, like spoken word is like a really good thing. And like
Yeah.
clearly you were ahead of your time because you was in the music group and you did a commercial with Beyonce. So clearly you got some sort of connection somewhere.
Yeah, I definitely can probably work something out for sure with some connections. But again, it's all my mindset. I'm like I said, my whole mind is always peace, you know, especially this point in my career. It's like, what can I do that can afford me the lifestyle that I want to live and give me peace. It's literally my only thing. It's when it comes down to pleasing people and all that stuff, it's out the window nowadays. So for me, choosing to go into that is really just about like what happens after this gets released. You know, what happens after we make these connections? Am I still gonna have to be all in this world, or can I just disappear? You know, because if I had it my way, I'm dropping it, not doing no performances, nothing. Don't leave me alone. I'm very much what's her name? Uh was it Summer Walker that was like not doing shows or something like that? You know, I'd be like that. I release the whole album, be like, all right, y'all, this is hope you don't
Listen,
expect the tour because it's not coming. You know,
sometimes it
so
works. We still waiting on them visuals from Beyonce, which we probably never gonna
exactly.
get. But we still waiting on them.
Exactly. But I'm not Beyonce, unfortunately. Unfortunately. They're not gonna
Only
wait on me like that.
1 degree of separation. All you gotta do is like post that little clip and with the
Right,
spoken
right,
word
right.
over top of it.
Post the commercial. Everybody be like, all right, you cool. You know,
Listen,
you Beyonce adjacent.
one
Yeah,
moment, it's all it takes.
right. You're right. You're right.
But like finding that peace and like especially in this part of your career, like what does that look like for you? How has that been? Or like what has that, you know, transitional process been like? Cause like you said, you done lived 10 lives. You done did, a lot of things under the sun. So like how
Mhm.
do you get to that next phase of your in your mind?
Well, I think once I reached a certain age, just my daily life just became different. I think my outlook on things became different. You know, the things that I like to do, the things I enjoy to do, just became different. So with that, my career changes sort of need to support that, right? Before, when I was in my early 20s, I like to party, I like to go out, I like to do this. So it's like I need a job, makes me some good money, puts me in some good places, you know, shake some good hands. You know, I was all for that. And you know, I think I hate to say this, but after I turned 30, I was just over it. I really was. I was just like, people, I mean, it's so funny because I'd start dating a girl and she'd be like, you don't ever go to no award shows and blah blah blah. I'm like, I can go. I get honestly, anybody can go to award shows. It ain't really even that hard. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you want to go to the Oscars, you really can if you try. You know, so it ain't that big of a deal. And I think part of that and realizing those things is what makes me the way that I am now. It's like, you know, and it's no dig to the general public, you know, it to me, it's what should happen. Everybody should be able to get dressed up and go attend the Oscars, go see your favorite star. Sure, all of these sort of exclusivity and all this stuff to make it seem like these people are so above the general public. I hate that. I hated going to after I remember I'm about to date myself very badly. I think after one of the Source Awards that I went to, right, the Source Magazine
I
Awards.
didn't mean to make that face. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. You just kind of reminded me of Kevin Hart in that clip with Don Cheadle. He's like, damn. Like, that's how I feel right now. but, but yeah, after one of the Source Awards, we went to a party and it was just like, and that was the party that Coolio got shot up at, if you remember. And it was just like, even thinking about that. And I was like, 16, I think, at the time. So it was like after 30, I was just like, I've done all the clubs. Yes, it's fun for the moment, but then the next day you feel horrible because you drank too much. Then you gotta work. Then you gotta worry about the person that you didn't get talked up and gave you your number on accident. Now they texting you. You don't even want them to text you. It's just a lot. You know what I mean? And then you got to worry about, okay, what happens when I go out to these places and I get too drunk and I say something stupid or I act a certain way. It's a lot. And for me, peace looked like being able to do what I want, when I want, how I want it. And that's it. And for me, having jobs that sort of fit that lifestyle is important. So I think that's why I gravitated more towards voiceover later in my career, because I can be low key. I can go to the booth, I can record this. It doesn't take as long, doesn't take the amount of preparation that an on-camera set takes. We get to the booth, we warm up for 10 minutes, talk to the director a little bit, they cue us up, we blaze through the episode in half an hour to an hour, and you're done. And then you see the fruits of your labor on television, and you get to reap that, and you get to go to certain events. And to me, the events that even came with the type of jobs that I was choosing felt different. As I started getting into more voiceover, now it's Kids Choice Awards that I'm going to. Now it's that type of stuff. And I found that stuff way more enjoyable than the other stuff. And that's just me. It's not going to be every person. I understand the guy that loves the club. I get it. But for me, all I saw was myself spending money that I didn't want to spend, and, not having as much fun as I wanted to have. The first Kids Choice Awards that I went to, the after party was in a freaking airplane hangar, and they had a wall of all the slushies ever made, all the flavors, like all of them. It was like 80 something flavors. Now, you tell me what club you want to go to Dre's and pay $1,500 for a bottle and be up in your section, cramped up with a whole bunch of sweaty, smelly people, drunk people all in your face? Or do you want to go to a nice air conditioned place, wide open with free food and 80 flavors of slushies? You tell me. Just
That
all I'm
is
saying.
like the most kid choice thing I could ever
Right.
imagine. Like
It's
it,
crazy, right? And you're like, that's genius. And everybody loved it. Young, old, didn't matter. We was all just like, which one you try? Let's try some different, let's try combinations. Like, that's all people did. And I just learned that as I, got to the later point of my life, I just liked, fun that just didn't require me to be something while I'm out. I have to be on all the time. Going to those places, it was fun because it was like even the stars were able to sort of de-arm themselves. I met Halle Berry at a Kids' Choice Awards after party. And she was sweet as all get out. Like, oh my God, you guys did it. And I'm like, I don't think that could happen anywhere else. Had I gone to a Oscar after party, I mean, it would have been the Halle that everybody's trying to get to, and she would have had all those people talk to. She wouldn't have even had the wherewithal to say, because it was the Kids' Choice Awards, she's saying, I need to be friendly to everybody. I need to have that air about me because these kids look up to me, not knowing whether we're actors or not or whoever. And that's the type of environment I like, when everybody's at their best. You know what I mean? The other type of environments almost encourage you to be at your worst. It's treat people like servants, because they're coming around with drinks, and go to the club, and now everybody's whatever beneath you because they don't have as many bottles as you do. And it's all just like a whole big, tug of war. It's like a sword fight. It's like, come on, man. I just want to have fun. So I think that that's kind of what it is now for me. Just realizing that I want things to happen in the way that I feel like in the twilight of my life, am I going to look back and say, I did too much, or I worked too much, or I didn't spend enough time here, or by myself, or just sitting, enjoying other places, traveling, even the fact that I've traveled so much, is a joy to me because I'm like, I couldn't do that if I was just constantly trying to be in the club or whatever, I can take a week off and be like, babe, let's go somewhere because, I'm over it. I'm over LA right now. Let's go down to Catalina or something, whatever. And I can have that peace, and so that's kind of really what it is for me now, is just trying to choose those things. And fortunately enough for me, it's worked pretty well so far. Um, like I said, I recently just booked a big well, not recently, it's now, I booked it wow, it'll be a year in February. So
Happy Black
just
History Month.
right, exact man. Not only was it Black History Month, but I booked it 4 days before my birthday. Yeah, so
Happy early birthday.
yeah, it was, man, that was the best birthday present ever. But yeah, the project that I'm doing now is extremely big, and it's kind of daunting because I feel like I'm gonna have to return sort of to the spotlight a little bit, once this gets out and gets released and stuff. So I've been a little nervous, just a tad, but I think that because of the type of project it is, I'm able to sort of feel a little more comfortable than normal. So it's definitely something that, even though I have some anxiety about, it's something that I'm just so excited to do, and I can't wait to do it. And yeah, yeah. So it's gonna be interesting these next 2 years. People are gonna see a flip of how I am, and I think that that's honestly in the last year why I've gotten so much sort of more visible on social media, is because I am trying to sort of get used to that, because I know that it's gonna come, So yeah, we'll see.
Well, I think you made the right choice in not doing the broadcast journalism thing because
Yeah,
like I work at a local news station and I'll tell you from the broadcast perspective, I'd be seeing some things and like you can't really you always have to be on.
yeah, oh
Like
yeah.
no matter what you went public, like you can't really be
Yeah. I
exclusive. You
mean,
can't
look at
have a
those
bad
two
day.
journalists, the ones that got hit up for the affair. And they was broken up with their people already. And it's like, but people are just in your life, because I mean, but when you think about it, and that's another thing that I try to get a lot of people to understand. People are always like, "Bruh, bruh, privacy." But you got to understand, these people are literally in your household every morning. You literally tune into them every morning. As a actor, I know that, for instance, if I were to, I don't know if I told you guys this last time either, but I originally got asked to do 106 in Park when AJ and Free left.
Really?
So I did. I was offered the job for, well, they wanted to fly me out for 3 weeks to test me. And they were like, we're gonna have you on the show for 3 weeks, see what's what, blah, 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 blah. At the time, I wasn't aware of a co-host. So I think it was gonna be just me. Not sure. But when my agent got the deal memo, the pay was not BET was not doing right by certain people. So it was something I just had to turn down. It was just not going to be viable, especially living in New York. So it was one of those things that I was unfortunate that I couldn't do, but I wanted to. But yeah, just stuff like that. It's just like, oh, I yeah, it's been a long road. We'll just say it's been a long road. But yeah, stuff like that, I always look back and I'm just like, man, the stuff that I could have done. But yeah, it's just back to what I was saying with the personalities being in your house. When I was gonna do 106 in Park, I was gonna be on television. That's 5 days a week, right? 106 in Park was every Monday through Friday. So it's like I would have been really weird had I been like, oh no, my privacy is like, if you choose to do that job, like you can be an actor that's a private actor. where there's plenty of people we don't know nothing about because they even choose roles that represent them as people. Daniel Day-Lewis comes to mind. It's a man he's won an Oscar, da, 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 but you don't know jack about this guy, because he's so private. He's such a recluse. He's such just into acting. It's very possible. But if you choose to do certain things, if you choose to be the blockbuster actor, you got to understand the amount of money that you make from that project is indicative of what type of fan base you're going to have. People, like, I don't understand why people, I look at The Rock as a very good inspiration in that aspect. That's somebody who knew what he was getting himself into. And every time you see him, there isn't a time where you see him being to fans as if he doesn't know what he's doing. You know what I mean? And I think that that's something that's very commendable on his aspect, but that's also the wrestling training. They deal with thousands and thousands and thousands of fans all the time. So he had that sort of base training, sort of to back him up. But, a lot of people don't understand that. But with those two news anchors, it's like, on one side, I'm like, none of y'all should care. That's my biggest thing. Is nobody should care. Like, he wasn't cheating. They both were broken up already. If they not cheating, who cares? Who cares? They not gonna have sex with you. So you should care. And so then the other side of the coin, everybody was like, oh, we're still horrible as a society because they don't have no privacy. I'm like, the news anchors. Like, if I see this guy more than my grandmama, like, so if anything, I just feel like people should understand the mode that you're driving your career into. You have to be ready for the roads. You got to be ready for everything that comes along with that, or choose another road. Turn around, press the brakes, stop, do whatever you got to do. But don't keep going on the road and be like, look at all the trees on the side of the road. I hate this. Stupid. It's stupid. So I never shied away from having people, hit me up and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people are always like, do you get weirded out by getting recognized or people hitting you up on Twitter? I don't. The unfortunate part about social media now for me is that I have gained popularity over the last 5 years. So now I don't see every message like I used to. I can't catch everything. Sometimes by the time I catch it, it's like months old. So I'm like, oh, I don't want to respond to that. So, but sometimes, if it's something that's very, something that I can really resonate with or something that's a little bit more pressing than I do, somebody who says, I just really appreciated your role or something like that, I'll shoot them a message. But unfortunately, I can't respond to everything like I used to. But I never am upset that people are sending me messages, as long as they're appropriate, of course. But like, because I get that too,
Yeah,
it's
you
so
got some
funny.
of that out there.
Right. I had a conversation with somebody on Twitter because, well, it wasn't a conversation. I had posted me and my girlfriend for the holidays, and under the page or under the post, I had gotten a couple of responses where people were like, "Oh, I didn't know he wasn't gay," and I get that a lot. I get that on almost every picture that I post, but I don't post it every time because I don't need to. However, this time I did post it. I was like, I quote tweeted the post, and I was like, y'all always kill me because y'all always say, y'all always don't remember that I'm not, gay, I'm straight. And I was just like, but I appreciate y'all. I said something like that. And there was somebody that quote tweeted, doesn't follow me or anything, and was like, I feel unsafe as a member of the community because you always feel the need to tell us that you're straight. I was just like, okay, one. I don't always do this. I was like, if I always did it, it'd be way worse. And I was like, because I could just screenshot my DMs right now if that's the case. And and then second, I was like, as far as you're upset that I had to remind you because then they switched the tune. It was like, oh, we don't mind you posting something like this, but to constantly harp on the fact that you're straight. And I was like, but I'm not harping. I'm just saying that I'm straight. I'm just saying, hey guys, for the people that think they can hit on me, I don't want you to waste your time because I'm straight. That's it. That's all I'm doing. And it's not to make anybody feel unsafe. It's not to make to be like, oh, I'm a he man, whatever. It's just simply calling out, I'm observing. That's it. So I think that it was weird, on that aspect, but that goes to the privacy access conversation of people who feel like they know you and want to hit you up. And everybody was always like, oh, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. But I don't find it bad. It's one bad take out of 1,000, and so that the 999 other people that are hitting me up, I love and cherish and want to, see them enjoy my work. So I think that that's the important part.
Well, if you did do it all the time, I feel like I probably would have saw it at some point in time. Um,
you know?
I personally haven't seen it, so I don't can't
And I'm
recommend
like,
that.
and I can understand if maybe you see that and then you don't see anything else. But I'm like, I show my support for the community. I even flirt sometimes with people in the community. So I'm like, I don't understand why people are like so pressed. And I'm like, I don't mind talking and engaging. So I don't understand how you couldn't look at my page and then say, okay, this is just something that I might be taking out of context because I feel some type of way, because clearly this person is doesn't mean any harm to the community, which I don't. So that's why I was just really confused. But again, I take that as one bad take out of the thousand. So I don't care. There's always going to be somebody that doesn't like what you're doing. So I just say, you know what? I hope that you feel better about this situation, and I just move on. It's exactly what I did.
And I think some of it is projection. I also think some of it is like people's own our own individual perception of what
I could be.
masculinity is. And
Yep.
if you're not out here, you know, pounding your chest, you're not out here doing certain things, saying certain things, behaving in a certain manner, it comes across as I don't have the right word for it. I don't kind of want
Like
to.
a pandering kind of trying to yeah. And I got that day somebody said that too, like somebody else took that person's comment and like quoted it and was like, yeah, because this person was following, they was like, yeah, I've been following him for a while now and I'm done because that's all he does is pander. I'm like, what? Like I could see in certain aspects how maybe if you take that one thing out of context, you see that. But again, I don't think people should make comments like that if they don't know the actual history of this person and their tweets or their conversations. So it was just really weird to me that that day, because of that, and you said you brought up the word projection, and that's what it felt like to me. It felt like, why is it that on the day that I post, because I've said it before under pictures of me, selfies, and people be like, "Oh, damn, hit me up if you in town." And I'm like, "My bad, I'm not gay, I'm straight," and nobody says anything. But I think it was also because I had my girl in the picture and it kind of maybe felt like I was rubbing it in somebody's face a little bit. And I felt like those two people felt like a little bit like, how dare you be somebody that we feel is included or that we've included into the community, and yet you're parading in this way. Like that's kind of what it felt like to me. And I'm like, sorry, I just responding to people. So
You know, that
yeah.
quote treat. It's also like that quote treat option. It's some people view it, cause like when somebody messes up on Twitter and they're
Mhm.
like everybody mama like come say basically the same thing that everybody else already said in the quote treat
Mhm.
function. It's like, oh, you trying to be smart, or you trying to be funny, but
Right,
that's
right, right.
also like a again going back to a projection thing. Like you said,
Yeah.
I've never seen it, so I can't speak on it. Like I'm also part of the community. You never made me feel no sort of way. I never felt like you was
Hope
low
not.
funny acting. So hey, I don't got no beef with you.
Right. That's how I put it. I told them literally that day, I said, look, you guys have problems and I'm so sorry. And it was crazy because I was really kind of like hurt that day because I was like, I don't want anybody to feel that way. Like that's the whole goal. That's the whole purpose of me changing my life around to sort of include that space in my life because I didn't before. And so for me, I take it upon the chest because I'm like, I did a lot of work to get myself to this point, and it was one of those things that I felt like was just kind of discrediting that, it was just like, you're not going to tell me that I don't try every day to make sure that I'm respectful, you know. So I feel like that was just one of those one-offs. And I told them, I said, I'm sorry y'all feel this way, but a lot of other people saw it and they had no issue with what I said that are also in the community. So I'm just gonna take this, apologize to y'all, and y'all can move on about your merry way. That's all I did.
You know, it's a good thing you've experienced that moment, you know, while you're at this phase of peace in
Yeah.
your life, you know, because that'll allow you to look at certain things and you don't necessarily have to internalize it. You're like, okay, this is what it is. I may feel a way, but you know, it's
Mhm.
not like I have to harp
Right.
on one moment or one thing, you know, and that
Exactly. Yeah, I can take it, take it on the chin and move on. And I think that came with getting a little bit more popular on social media. Before I only had like before 2020, I had like 4,000 followers. And that's still a good amount, to me, But by actor standards, people were always hitting me up and being like, you ain't nobody because you don't even have over 10,000 followers and you're not even verified, blah, 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 blah. And so like once I got verified, then my followers started shooting up instantly, right? And then
because now you somebody.
right, and then now the tune has changed, and I'm like, but it shows, like you said, that sort of disparity, when it comes to how people interact with certain people versus others, online, and that's why I just stay out of the way. I'm like, I already know the game. I already know the jig is up there. I already know. So you don't have to do all that song and dance with me. I'm gonna just say okay and get on. That's it.
Yes, no, I understand. I support you, you know. Probably
Appreciate.
something else I could say that probably won't be included in this clip if you ever want to talk about it, you know.
Right, right, right.
But you know, hey, certain things happen for whatever reason they happen.
Yeah.
But being that this whole thing is a topic of like black creatives, I
Mhm.
want to touch on Gray Skies Entertainment and like what
Yes.
made you want to kind of like I don't want to say shifts because like you say you've been creative, you've been in this field, you've been writing, you've been doing all of these things, but like
Mhm.
you know, kind of put you
Make it a little serious. Yeah, yeah, to kind of solidify that space. No, I mean what you just said was really kind of my thought process on it. I was always like, I've been helping people out. I had long been somebody that was shadow producing on a lot of projects, and I'd show up to a set and end up directing pretty much, but not get credit for it. And I was just like, whatever. But I think really what it was to me was having seen the influx of black media available. When I started writing and stuff, nothing like that was out. And I was at 16 writing black sci-fi, black fantasy, black action, without a white or Asian counterpart to go along with the other black guy. Like, no disrespect to Rush Hour and the Money Talks and of the world, because I literally just watched Money Talks last night. But to me, I always just recognized the films that were able to have black leads without having that token white guy, that could make sure they drive up sales. For instance, Double Take, which I feel like should get more shine than it does, Eddie Griffin and Orlando Jones. To me, that's the quintessential idea of what I would like Gray Skies to do. I want films that aren't about being black. It's not about being black. It's black cast in normal situations that you see everybody else in, and that's that, and you don't have to explain why these people are black or why it's in this certain part of town or whatever. And I just hated that when I was younger. So Gray Skies, once I would say maybe 10 years ago, I really started seeing that influx, and I got serious. I started producing first under Everlasting Entertainment, which is my friend's production company. Raven Kelly, who was young Tina Turner on What's Love Got to Do with It. She was also in The Time to Kill. Very great actress in her own right. She started producing and had a project that she needed help on and just wanted my input. And from that point, we had shopped to A&E, Lifetime, and stuff like that. So I just kind of got my feet wet, and I was like, I'm not bad at this, So I was like, at that point, I still didn't have my own thing, but I was really sort of seriously producing under her. And then she moved from LA. To start a family in Connecticut, and really was just kind of having me head everything out here in LA. But because she kind of took things it lessened my workload. And so I kind of felt like I was like, well, I could be doing more, and started really being serious about my own projects. I had tons of scripts that I had written throughout my life. And I was just like, let's get serious. So I rewrote a show that I had written when I was 17, and I made it into a web series. And once I completed that, it was over with. I was just like, I read it. I had other people read it. People were like, if this was on television right now, it would be my favorite show, all of that kind of thing. And I was just listening to everybody. I was like, okay, I just need to do it. I just need to go ahead and start this company so that I can really sort of make my footprint, when it comes down to this creation game, because now that's where everybody's finding success. You have the Key and Peels, you have shoot, even Daniel is producing his own stuff now, under them. And I think that that's really just a testament of what people are accepting as far as Black media. Like I said, it's no longer now that we have to sort of signify that this is a Black story. It's just having us in those spaces. And I think that that's really one of those things that I was prideful about when I created Gray Skies, was letting everybody know that this is not gonna, we're not gonna just put anything out, and it's not really, that's not talking about quality. It's just talking about tone. It's talking about, I just can't put out a comedy because it's easy. I can't just make a scary film because it's easy, and that's why you haven't seen any work from us, because we are constantly evolving our projects. We're constantly building on things that make them not just something that can make us money and set us up for the next thing. Right now I have my protege, Brandon Jackson. He's going to be excited that I mentioned his name on his podcast, by the way. Brandon Jackson, out in Texas, working hard on our fantasy project, which is a sprawling werewolf story that features all Black actors in a fantasy cast, talking about our mythical legends like Mami Wata, turning Dracula into something that is viable for our community. Things like that is in this story. And I think that's really kind of one of those things that I'm, priding myself on, that Gray Skies can really put out into the world. Because you don't really have those things. Those things always come with, what do you call it? What is the thing that's attached to something that you don't need? They always come with, I want to say baggage, but it's not baggage,
Like,
but it
and
always
I
comes,
feel you. I can see
you
the
know what
word
I'm
and I
talking
can
about,
see it
right?
in my
A
head,
hitch.
but
It
I
always
just
comes with a
can't pull
hitch.
it.
I just said it. I just said it. A hitch. It always comes with a hitch, right? It always comes with something that it's like for instance, I was very excited to see First Kill on Netflix. Very diverse cast. However, it talked about it, and it just really kind of it took out the fantasy aspect of me, because it always brings me back to the fact that we can't do certain things in the media's eyes. And that's a very real thing. And so it takes me out of the fantasy, which is about fantastical elements and things that don't matter in the real world, if you have me constantly thinking about this thing. It's another problem that I had with Bridgerton. Everybody's, oh my God, it's so great to see, da 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 da. But for me, the first season mentioned, the fact that, oh yeah, there are slaves, and oh yeah, I guess, it's kind of weird that we're out here like this and they're serving, but it's okay. And it was just like one scene, and I'm just like, and I'm like, for me, I would just take the scene out. Just take the scene out. We don't even need it. It was just beautiful without it. But the fact that you put me in, that you say that scene, now I'm taken out of the fantasy. Now I'm aware that there are Black people serving everyone. And now I'm like, what is the deal? And so for me, it's about not that. It's about all of those things that every time we get taken out of fantasy because we see a Black guy and we're like, oh, well, it's the Black blah, 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 blah. Like the fact that we're calling what do you call it, Sam Wilson's version of Captain America, the Black Captain America. No, he's Captain America. Miles Morales is not the Black Spider-Man. He's freaking Spider-Man, and that is what I want to get away from, is having those sections, those boxes that we put ourselves in and other people put us in, and just doing away with all of it and just making good stuff, with us in it, so we've got a ton of projects on the slate. Closest to being shot and completed is our first short film, which is a thriller. That'll be starring me and Michael Perkins off of Hardball. It'll be his major return. He's done a couple projects, but this is going to be the thing that I think that will sort of put his visibility out there that he's back. He played Kofi in Hardball. So it's just it's really cool. It's really been great to see people like Brandon who are, just very hungry to create stories and, just really sort of do away with, like I said, preconceived notions and really take it to the stratosphere. So that's really what we're striving for. Got a reboot as well. I'm gonna put this out there in the universe. Maybe this will catch some ears. I am currently almost finished with a reboot of Low Down Dirty Shame, and I turned it into a short film that is not as much of a reboot as it is a sequel. And so it's a little bit of both, more like a reimagining, I guess you could say, very much a Bel Air take, if you will. So I would love if any of the Wayans would love to take a look at this, be in it, whatever the case may be. I'm gonna do it. But I just feel like that also represents, the type of things that I want Gray Skies to do. I miss that era of Black action film where it was just so good, so funny, so simple, and just so effective, And I think Low Down Dirty Shame really represents that. And I think Keenan Ivory Wayans and the Wayans family in general represents that sort of trailblazing attitude to put us in those spaces that are just funny, has nothing about to do with the culture. It's just funny, and then improving the culture by being just funny and not having it, be at the forefront. I think that's a beautiful thing, because that's what everybody else does, So for me, I want to make sure that we are on that even playing field, if not get us a leg up. And I think that that's the way to do it. So yeah, that was a very long answer. I'm sorry. But
This is
I
your
wanted to tell
business.
y'all, I wanted to give y'all a preview of what to expect with us because, like I said, we've been really hard at work. Brandon has been working on this werewolf project for about 2 years. We've been world building. I mean, when I show you the amount of work that we have, the amount of documents that we have, it's insane. And I think about how we're so impressed with the Tom Cruises and the James Camerons when they go into preparation for Mission Impossible or for Avatar. And James Cameron's talking about how he's doing all the world building and he's got an ecosystem and all that. And we're always like, oh my God, that's so great. And I'm like, I want to do that. You know what I mean? I want to take that time. I don't want to just create. I feel like sometimes our fantasy and our sci-fi are half baked, because it's like, oh, you should just be happy we're Black people in this kind of film, and it's like, no, I want that whole rich world. I want Wakanda, I want that out of everything, I want that sort of history. So I don't want to leave it up to anybody else, though. I want us to do it. So that's why Gray Skies exists. And Gray Skies as a moniker is about the violent, turbulent things necessary to create something beautiful. To me, that's what a storm is. It's that cloud, that gray thing that comes where you're like, oh man, it's about to be bad, but that after that there is greatness. And so I think that because we're rebels, because we're probably thought to shake things up, that's why I think of us as that sort of storm coming through the industry. But know that once the finished products happen, they will be beautiful. So yeah.
That was beautiful. That like this, business, like you can see it in your eyes, like, no, this is
Yeah, no, and I want to, I'm employing us, obviously. I actually just shot out a email to like personal friends, and I was like, any of my like Black female friends who are in the industry right now, I need you. Like, I want you to be on the team. Because I think that the voices that need to be heard are that Black women make up less than, I think, 1% of all creators when it comes down to what's out there in media. That's crazy to think about. With as many projects as there are in the world, you think about, just count, one section on Netflix and it's in the 20s at least. And then you got to move to a different streaming network and then a different one. And then you think about how much content is there, and to think that we represent less than 5% together, Black men and women, of who creates that stuff. That's crazy. you know. So that's really the goal with Gray Skies, is to have everybody who doesn't have a job, who wants that kind of creation, you know, dealing with Netflix, dealing with HBO, dealing with whatever, you know, that's what I want to be, is that place for everybody to go. Tyler has his studios, you know, to for everybody to go shoot at. I want to be the production house to bring your ideas to. You know, if everybody can go shoot there, I want everybody to feel comfortable bringing your ideas to me, because that's what we specialize in, is taking that idea from just an idea or something on paper to something that you can sell. You know, even if I don't make it, I don't have to make it. I want you to make money from it. That's the goal. I want you to be successful from it. So that's who I am. You know, I always tell people, email the Gray Skies email, which is Gray Skies Entertainment at gmail.com, and email with any kind of you know, ideas that you have. Please make sure they are copywritten. If you do not, I will do it myself. I always tell people, protect your ideas. When you email me with something, we instantly do an NDA. I don't play that. So I don't want your ideas stolen. I don't want you to say I stole your idea. I don't want none of it. So you are well protected. That is the first order of business when it comes to that. So please, 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 if you have things that are well done, decks, you know, outlines, whatever, send them over, because that's what we're trying to do. And especially this year, luckily with the things that I'm doing this year, I will actually finally have the resources to just do everything myself. Before, we were looking for angel investors and things like that. But you know, everybody comes with that whole hitch, as we said that word that we couldn't find before, and they always have to have something that you're doing. Well, is this going to get me this? And is it? And even the black ones. And that's the crazy part. You know, I, you know, met several investors that really went the distance, and then we got to contracts, and it's just like, you know, no, you know, it's just like it's not going to work out. So finally, I'm getting to the point where now I don't even have to worry about that, and I'm very thankful for that. But it's definitely also a responsibility, because now I'm putting my own dollars into this, and so I have to now. It's even more of a thing for me to really sort of have my hands on, and to make sure everything's, you know, up to tip top shape, because now it's my money. So so now everything's gonna be perfect now. Trust me. But that's where we are. Yeah, that's where we are. We are right on the cusp of actually starting work on a lot of things. So you'll hear a lot from us in the next year.
Oh, that is good. Congratulations. You know, like
Thank you.
that deserves to be praised. But like when you said that fact, that even like the it caught me off guard. 'Cause like you, granted, we already know there's gonna be disparities amongst like things that black people create. We already know it. But
Mhm.
like to hear you say that, it was just like,
It's crazy, right?
damn. Because like for me, there's so many popular things that like happened that I know I didn't watch, just based off the fact that I don't, even I
Hmm.
was young before I knew representation was. I'm like, I didn't see myself. This don't look like something I want to watch, you know?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then you also got to find that balance of the things that are, you know,
Yeah.
made with black people. And it's very much like you said, you can tell what's authentically created by black people and what's not.
Hmm.
So then
Yep.
you one side of the battlefield, the other side. So then you got to find that
Yeah.
middle ground. And it's
I
hard to find that middle ground.
So hard. And it's crazy because I think that there's so many black projects that are considered black projects from white creators. And at first I thought that that was a just insanely bad thing, 100%. After Love Life season 2, I'm finding myself to be corrected, because I believe his name is Sam Boyd, who created Love Life, the show on HBO, and its incredible second season centers around a black man and his love life. And when I first heard about it, I swore up and down that this was all it. Every writer in person associated with this got to be black. I mean, blackity black. Because I was like, it's stuff in here that I ain't. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is they telling some secrets. Like I was like, wait a minute, you know. And so, you know, to find that it was created, but that also goes to show the difference between white creators that understand who they have to employ versus ones that think they can do it themselves. And Sam definitely employed a lot of black writers, so I'm very thankful for that. But just his awareness, you know, to really sort of create something like that, and to not have me watch it as a black man and feel anything was out of place. So I think now, really, instead of saying, I want us, because I definitely, that's the first order of business, is wanting us to create it. But for me, if there's a creator out there that is fine with employing a staff full of black writers and creating something as beautiful as Love Life season 2, then I'm all for it. But our first order of business is knowing that we can do it ourselves, but all hope is not lost. I think that is one of those things that we really have to understand, that unfortunately the industry doesn't see value in that. They don't see value, and Sam probably took a big chance on his season 2, and now to see that his show got canceled because after that season is even more reason to understand how we are so marginalized. And bless his heart for really sticking to it and wanting to create the second season to have feature a black cast or a black person, because he didn't have to. The first season was about a white girl, and he could have kept it going, but he wanted it to be that way. So I think that it just takes a lot. It takes a lot of working in that stuff, in that space. It takes a lot of not selling out. It takes a lot of us not taking our projects and taking them to a distributor and changing them so much that it's unrecognizable, and that now it doesn't even represent what you wanted it to represent, and it doesn't reach who you wanted it to reach, because now it's all studiofied, you know what I mean? And I think that that is kind of the biggest problem right now, because even though it's a low 5%, I've been shocked to see how many shows now are staffed by black writers or have black creators. And I'm just like, what? Why can't I tell through this project? Why? Most likely because it's been changed so much that it doesn't even represent me anymore. Like you said, you don't even see yourself. So, you look at, I even Velma, Mindy Kaling's right. Yeah, we're gonna talk about it. Oh, we're gonna talk about it. Okay. You change Shaggy to a black guy, and no black person wants to watch this show because you don't represent us. The voices that you have put, not saying Sam Richardson's actual performance, we're saying the writing. The writing of this character does not represent, or your show does not represent what we want to see out of this community. Not in the slightest. And so I think that it's things like that that now we set ourselves a step back when we accept those types of things. Whether you are a worker on the show, whether you indulge in it, or whatever the case may be, you're accepting it. And now you're setting it back, because now you're gonna have to work twice as hard, because when you create something that really does represent us, they're gonna be like, but what about this? We had Velma and that was fine. That was on HBO Max. And you're gonna be stuck because you're like, damn, you're right. I can't even sell this what I'm doing right now. But that went, and that's the issue, is because that means that those writers, whoever was creating those characters or representing us with that writing, had to take those steps and had to do it to keep their job. And I can't knock that. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying we are going to be different. My goal is to be different, is to make sure that we are heard and seen and all those things. And that's why I feel it's important to employ black men and women, because if I'm creating something that's supposed to represent us outwardly, there's no way that I can't have inward representation. So that's what it starts with. It starts with that creation process.
It's funny you brought up that show because, like, I don't know if you've seen, but the black community and the Indian community sometimes be going back and forth on Twitter.
Definitely.
And I've
Definitely.
never seen such a united front until it came to this show.
Man, and it's crazy because, and you know why? It's because Mindy has been known to be very racist towards her own people, and that, and her own community. It just really just kind of feels, sort of self-hatish. A lot of people have called her out for that. You look at all the projects that she's created, all of her love interests have been white, and all of those kind of things. And you start to see why certain things end up the way they do. Now you look at Velma and you go, I get it, because you look at that person's history and you go, all right, well, it's from that person. So now I get it. And that's why I say, for me, it was just always important to represent myself well, throughout my projects, because, you never know when if I'm getting to Gray Skies up to the point where I can compete with other small production houses, the Monkey Paws and all that of the world, then what do I look like if somebody goes and says, well, yeah, I know he didn't really represent us. He was talking about this and this and that, and this doesn't really do what you think it does, you know. And I just don't. I never want that. So you know, that's why I'm like, nah, I'm gonna keep it in house. So, but yeah, you're right. It's been a united front on that show. I honestly didn't think it was gonna get that reamed because I feel like, you know, that's just the way a lot of animation is going nowadays. It's very brash, it's very out there, and it's not smart anymore very much. It's very shock value. And again, but that again, that's not it's not a dig. I know it's I'm such an asshole.
No,
Sometimes
it's funny
I'm such an
because like
Aquarius.
you know how you be seeing things on Twitter, and it's like people will post like clips of, like old cartoon shows, and you'll be like, now why the hell they have us watch this as a child? Because you could slide in there.
Yeah.
Like so now when you see certain things, it's like
It's not smart. They just say it, and it's just there, and it's shock value. You know, it's you know, Big Mouth is great. I love it. I laugh so much, but it's just shock. It's shock value. It's you literally there's a freaking hormone monster walking around with people like he's a Pokemon. Like there's nothing about that that says undercover or subtle. Okay, so for me, I just feel like now what you have is since you have those brash things, everything's in your face, and you have these people who are now not even hiding the fact that they're not versed on a certain community or not as into a certain culture as we thought they would be. Now it's just out there for us to see. When before it might have been under the cover a little bit, but now it's like spotlight, you know. And so I think to those creators, you have to really just kind of give a shrug to because like you should have known. You know, you knew what you were getting yourself into, and Big Mouth already has things on lock when it comes to shock value. You got Inside Job, who also had that, but they got canceled in the middle of their second season, which is crazy. And you know, you got a ton of other carbon copy shows like that. But BoJack's good to me. BoJack is smart to me sometimes. You have tons of other carbon copies of that. So I think that when somebody creates a show, and not only that, but you take a very beloved property in Scooby Doo, and then you turn it into something that's modernized, you got to be ready for the consequences. You know, you got for instance, me knowing that I'm taking something as beloved, and even though it's a cult classic, it's not as popular as Scooby Doo, but something like Low Down Dirty Shame comes with a huge responsibility. So I've been
they're gonna
writing it
talk
for a
about you
whole
when you mess it
year.
up.
Yeah, people love that movie. That's Jada and Keenan. That's those are some people we can't touch. You know what I mean? You don't touch it. Will got blackballed over Jada. Okay, you don't talk about Jada, right? You know what I'm saying? So for me, I take it as the people that I not only have acting in it, but just the creation of it in general has to have that sort of reverence because I'm taking something that already existed in the culture and I'm trying to modernize it. That comes with responsibility. I can't just go and be like, all right, let's just make it funny. Like I can't do that because that would be sort of disrespectful and also not the same comedy tone as something like a Low Down Dirty Shame. Now, somebody can argue that Mindy might not been have aiming for the same comedy tone as Scooby Doo, which is probably obvious, but at least you know that the people who watch Scooby Doo are gonna at least take a look or see this thing. And it's so funny because my girlfriend's mom loves Scooby Doo, like loves Scooby Doo. Seen every episode, can recall certain monsters and stuff. And she watched one episode. She called us. It was like, "Have y'all seen?" There you go, right there you go. That's her.
I ordered these maybe like 2 months ago because I wanted to relive my childhood.
That's wild. See, and that's and she was so upset. She's like, they didn't take it in Scooby Doo and just bastardized it. She was so upset, and and looking at that, and I say, she had to know that that was going to be her main audience. Like, yes, our generation was going to watch it too, but the people who were going to look forward to it were going to be the 40-year-old men and women who want a piece of their childhood back, who knew they loved Scooby Doo, and boom, here's a new one. That's going to be the main thing because there's nobody under 20 looking at that and being like, hey, I got to watch me some Scooby Doo. Nobody. None. Okay. None. And you can put as many dick jokes as you want in the trailer and it's not going to matter. Okay. And that's what I feel like what happened. It was like, let's just put a whole bunch of sex jokes and a whole bunch of inappropriate stuff in it, and just let's see what happens. And it's just like you can't do that anymore. At least for me as a viewer, you can't. So I hope. Well, I'm actually in the works with an animated project as well. I guess I can go ahead and talk about that real quick. Called Adventures of Kismet and Destiny, uh by a very cool creator in the UK, actually, and he is just an amazing talent. And he's created just something that I feel like is very reminiscent, kind of gives me Grim Adventures vibes. I don't know if you remember that cartoon, but just
Man,
better,
listen, I still want to know how they had a Jamaican skeleton.
listen, man, it was great. And I think that this show just sort of really kind of expands that idea, and really takes it and just turns it on its head. Very, very good. We've already got some art and stuff going for that, so I'm really excited. That's going to take a little bit longer though, because animation, as you know, is just, to me, I think animation is one of the lasting forms of media. Well, it used to be. A cartoon will be on forever. You got Simpsons at 20 years. You got all these cartoons that Fairly Odd Parents made it to 18. You know what I mean? So it's like, you look at that and I'm like, if I'm creating a cartoon, I gotta be ready for the years to come. So we're currently really sort of fleshing a lot of stuff out. So that's really kind of gonna be one of those baby projects that I'm just gonna really sort of cultivate throughout the year. But I'm excited, and I hope to have that be something that's super smart. Just very brief synopsis. It's about a underworld school, basically, if I can kind of sort of give a general thing and not too specific. And basically, it is the training for all the sort of monster-like characters in our world, and but as children. But as you can imagine,
I
at a
like that.
school, yeah, as at a school with all of these sort of monsters, and that it's really one of those things that we really kind of take liberty with the world. So the school has very much supernatural properties and almost as a character in and of itself. So we also have a very, very unique headmaster. I don't want to say anything about him, but maybe not as funny as the Jamaican voice Grim Reaper, but we also have a Reaper headmaster who is very cool. So I think that it's really cool to see something like that I've been sort of in practically all my life, when it comes to animation, and now I'm creating something of my own in that space. So I can't wait for that.
I'm excited about that. Like that actually, like just off of that little brief description, like that actually makes me like, hmm.
Yeah, and Kismet and Destiny, I don't know if you know, but those are the mythological children of death. I don't know if you know. So, that's what we're representing it as. And they just sort of go through their own thing. They're both little black children. So, and it's just really great. And this is great because Sam, who is actually another Sam creator, who is my co-creator on this, he's not black. And again, he himself said, I would like these children to be black. Because I want he's in the LGBT community, but he wanted that representation, and he really did. And I asked him, I said, it's not just because I'm black. I was really frank, and he's like, no, 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 this is the vision that I had, in my mind when I created this. So I'm very thankful, to sort of be a part of what I talked about earlier, like with Love Life, and having someone who really feels like they want to give those opportunities to other people, to see representation and to also create something that feels like they can be represented with. So shout out to Sam Nifton over in the UK if you're listening to this.
So looking like this whole conversation,
Mhm,
your whole career, everything that you've done, everything that you want to do,
mhm,
I'm gonna ask this final question.
mhm.
What does it mean to you to be a black creative?
Wow. Originator. That's the first word I think of. And creator. people think it's synonymous with originator, but it's not. You can create something that's already been done. You know what I mean? So I think that as Black creatives, we don't get recognized enough for being originators, with our creations. And I think that, everything that we've done up until this point has been followed by, other forms of media, other cultures, other demographics. And I think that that's something that I want to pride myself on as a Black creator, is just being somebody who, when you look at the projects that I created, you're gonna go, there's nothing like that. There's just, that just exists in its own bubble. And even if there's something that has a similar aspect, it doesn't feel like this. You know what I mean? I just all of my favorite things, that's how I feel, with, I always go, yeah, there's other action shows, but they're not Banshee, which is my favorite action show, or I say there's plenty of comedies. Sure, Friends, you might giggle a little bit, but it's not Living Single, and so, and you look at those things, and those are originating things, and so I look at that, and I really just pride myself in wanting to be that type of creator. Even with my acting, when people look at, my work, and they call me a Black creator, and the main thing that I represent is my acting career, because it's the thing I've been doing the most. And I look at that and I say, even with my roles, people will look back, and even if they don't know my name, they go, that one guy, or that guy that looks like Taj, or not Taj, or whatever they say, I people know who I am. They look and they go, that guy, that role, I definitely remember that. And nobody did it like that. Every time I post, me on Living Single and Family Matters and Cosby, it was like no kid was doing that. And no, and that was the early stage of my career. And if I started like that, then I have to keep going like that, in my opinion. So everything that I do is always about what's fresh. How can we move it forward, but still also incorporating the things that we've known and loved for all these years, because that's a part of what makes us us. You know what I mean? That's our culture. So it's really just expanding those ideas on everything that we've had, as originators, and seeing what we can take it to as far as new heights. How can we raise the bar of creation? A lot of people always talk about raising a bar, but you're talking about the final bar. I'm talking about the beginning bar. How do we start with that bar raised? Because we're always trying to catch up. We're always trying to come from behind, and we always got to, get to the point of the other demographics, or get to the views of the other culture, and I don't want that anymore. I want to make sure that we're starting at zero like everybody else. So that's what I envision myself as. And when everything is said and done and finished, and I'm in the, the heyday of Gray Skies, I just want people to look at it and just say, I enjoyed those projects. Nothing else, nothing more. I don't want people to think that the greatest thing since sliced bread or anything like that. I don't want you thinking that it's perfect, because nothing's going to be for everyone,
Right.
period. You know what I mean? So for me, it's just about, I know how I am as a consumer. And I know when I go to the movies, or I go to watch TV shows, I'm looking at those performances, and I'm looking at this story, and I'm like, I'm feeling it. I love it. I love what I do. I love the creation aspect of what I do. So as a Black creator, it's about taking that feeling that I have as a consumer, and finding out how to maximize that as a creator. Cool. Now, how can I make everybody who sees my work feel how I'm feeling right now when I'm watching my favorite things, or I'm watching my favorite Black creator do the damn thing. Regina King. Every time I see Regina, I'm like, Jesus, you are just insane, woman. Like, what? You know what I mean? And like, I want to feel that. I want people to feel that way when now Gray Skies or I'm mentioned later in my career. That's all. Nobody thinks Regina King is perfect, or think that. Well, some people do, but there's, the industry as a whole. She's not the number one, but there's nobody in the world probably that's going to discredit her. And that's the goal. I think that's the thing that I think is more powerful than being at the top, is being so that nobody can say you're at the bottom or anywhere near. I think that's way better, because everybody at the top is going to be gunned for. You're going to have something wrong with you. As soon as you reach that top, there's going to be something wrong with you. And I like people who will go, I always remember that he's a legend. but I'm never gonna reach that point where you can talk shit about me. And I want it that way. You know why? Because the people who have mastered that are the people that are in it for the long haul. And those are the people that are really behind Hollywood. How people are like, oh, they look at the Tylers and they look at the Oprahs and all that. Yeah, but those people, they have their fortunes, but it comes with a huge price. Huge price. You know what I mean? And love them as much as I do, but it's just one of those things. You've reached that point now where you're under that microscope and everything that you do is going to be looked at and analyzed. And if you make a mistake, it's going to be known. And so for me, it's not about hiding from my mistakes, but more so about not giving anyone ammo to shoot at me with. You know what I mean? Regardless of whether I deserve it or not. I'm not going to give you the ammo. Why would I give you the ammo? So for me, I'm going to make it so that my projects are so solid, so fresh, so inventive that the only thing you can say is how much you enjoyed it and how much you can't wait to see the next thing.